bad boy on. So then we all can have a little bit of a party here. So with a vulnerability scan, that actually is finding any. So this is a passive scan, and it's finding known vulnerabilities on a network. Okay, so it finds those known vulnerabilities by looking for things that it knows about. So if it has a signature, like for instance, maybe a CVE, a common vulnerability exposure, what it does is it looks for that signature of that vulnerability, and then it'll flag it and put it into the report. That's all it does. It just scans the network. So then, and this isn't just for you. I think this is for everybody. So the vulnerability scan, there's a couple of tools out there, and you can download. And I would recommend that you absolutely do, every one of you. I would download Nessus and play around with it. That's probably the best vulnerability scanner on the marketplace right now, and they'll give you, I think, a 7-day trial on it, and it's pretty good. It's a pretty good one. We have a licensed copy that we use for that, and it's a pretty good tool. So check it out. A penetration test is an active exploitation of known vulnerabilities. Right? So in order for me to actively exploit something, I have to know the vulnerability. So a pen test actually will include a vulnerability scan. Right? So if I'm going through and somebody asks me to do a vulnerability scan on their network, what I might do is I say, yeah, I'll give you a vulnerability scan. I'll run a couple tools. I won't just run Nessus. I'll run, a couple other tools out here. We'll give them a quote. Let's say for, $11,000, we'll do a vulnerability scan for you. And all we're doing is we're scanning your network and just reporting back what we found. We're not doing anything else. It's the way that I kind of think of it like this right here. If you think of Jell-O, right? If you just think of how Jell-O looks vulnerable when you look at it, when you shake it a little bit, you're just like, wow, that's pretty weak, and oh wow, it must taste pretty good. But in addition to that, if you were to just stick your finger in the Jell-O, there's a good chance that you can probably push your whole hand or your whole arm through that Jell-O, right? But you don't have permission to do that. You don't have permission to do it. All that we have permission to do is maybe just to poke it to see if it responds in a certain way. And that's what the vulnerability is. The vulnerability scan is basically just touching the surface and kind of poking it and getting out, poking it and getting out. Whereas the pen test is we're first going to go in there and we're going to poke and we're going to get out, poke and get out, poke and get out. And then after that, now we're going to push our whole arm and then start to get all up in there and go all the way through with our entire body because we know that those are vulnerabilities. So with the pen test, what we'll actually do is we'll do these things called proofs of concepts, where if we know what a vulnerability is, then we can go through and actively test that, actively exploit that based on whatever that vulnerability is. So that's the difference between the two. The answer to this one, active exploit, is a pen test. Okay. I mean, it's up to you, Trenton, whatever you want to do. Shane and Dave, you guys look like you're on the same mountaintop over there with those backgrounds, man.
Sir, yes, sir.
Stop copying me.
That's pretty cool. All right. Kelsey, makes sense?
Yes, sir. I was just second guessing myself. I do that a lot.
You're smart. Don't second guess yourself.
I think she should
let's go with
do the third one.
Let's go with Shane on this one. Shane, go ahead.
Okay, which of the following is the proper order for incident response? Detection, containment, eradication, recovery, and preparation would be the bottom one. This is kind of obnoxious to read them all, but I'll do it. Preparation.
You don't have to read them out loud. Just
okay.
Kind of, because if you're like me, if you read it out loud, you're gonna probably have to go through it again, and then probably a third time. So you don't have to read it out loud, man.
Yeah, please don't.
Well, you always prepare is always the first thing, so we'll throw away A and D. And you can't recover until you've contained, so I would go with B.
Okay, you're gonna go with Bravo.
Yes, sir.
Well, that was a pretty quick answer there. Anybody agree or disagree with him here? Well, hopefully you agree, because exactly what he said, right? You have to prepare first before you can do anything else. So you can't detect, and certainly prepare wouldn't be at the end of it. So, just like you said, get rid of that. Prepare needs to be first, so we would get rid of that. And then here, the recovery is going to be last, so it's got to be B. Excellent job there. Fantastic. Trenton, that looks fantastic, buddy. All right, Josh Nordstrom, do you have a mic on?
I think so.
Oh, I guess you do, don't you? All right. How about you take us to the promised land with this one right here?
A company wants to have a backup site that is a good balance between cost and recovery time objectives. Which of the following is the best solution? The choices are warm site, cold site, remote site, hot site. I'm guessing that the hotter it is, the more it costs, and the colder it is and the more remote it is, the longer the recovery time. So let's go with, let's not go with hot, and let's not go with cold.
Okay, so let's not go with hot. Let's not go with cold.
So now I need to figure out whether remote is more cost effective and recovery effective than warm. And I'm going to say that warm is a good balance, because remote's probably.
Yeah. So, I kind of look at it like this right here. If we say that a hot site is, big time money, it's fault tolerant. And if you guys don't know this, you may want to make note cards. In addition to fault tolerance here, it would also be it's a lot of money, it's fault tolerant, fully redundant in that case, right? Redundant. And most importantly here, highly available. Right? Typically the hot site is that. So a remote site is very similar to a hot site. This one could usually a company would own this one, the actual facility. The remote site would be like AWS or Azure in this regard. you're still going to pay a pretty nice premium for it, but maybe not as expensive as owning a piece of property. It definitely gives you redundancy and fault tolerance. So if something happens, you can have a quick failover, and the remote site is going to be highly available as well. So it's very similar to the hot site, and you're just not going to pay as much for that. So, I think of it like this right here. If I have a website here and I put a load balancer in between, right? So this is going to be a load balancer in between. And now I have, this is my primary right here. And then this is going to be my number 2 of the hot site. The load balancer will always push over to this guy first until he can't push anymore to him. And then these two have a replication agreement between them that copies information. So they're carbon copies of each other, and it'll push to this guy until it can't. And then if this guy goes down, immediately the load balancer will push it over to this copied website that is a carbon copy. So that's typically how a hot site works. A warm site, on the other hand, typically means that you may have servers, some of the critical systems are there, but it would take you probably around 24 hours to recover if something happened, because you'd have to physically send somebody there. You'd have to send personnel physically to power it on, and then spin up the operating systems, configure everything. But a lot of things are there and available. So I usually will say, let's put $2 signs for that, because it's not going to be as expensive as having something highly available. This one it's lower availability, low availability, right? So you're paying less for it. Whereas a cold site is going to be usually, optical or DVDs, maybe paper copies of things, maybe some hard drives. Yeah, I kind of think of a cold site kind of like a storage unit. It's going to be pretty cheap, but you compromise here the recovery time with a very low availability. You compromise. So the answer for this one is warm site. Excellent job. Excellent job, man. All right, let's go back to about Kincaid for this next one. Kincaid, go ahead.
Jane's guest, Pete, comes to her office to meet her for lunch. She uses her encoded badge to enter, and he follows in behind her. This is an example of which of the following? D. Fishing. C. Whaling. B. Least privilege. A. Tailgating. And you can get rid of D. Fishing and C. Whaling at... What are you writing there?
I'm just saying. Are you a broadcaster? You sound like you need to be on TV there, man. That was fantastic. Fantastic.
I mean, I did the school news when in middle school.
It's fantastic. So you were saying, go ahead.
You get rid of fishing and whaling because those are techniques to get information from websites and such. And then from tailgating and least privilege, you would go with tailgating because that's the one where you follow someone in.
Okay, follow in behind. Tailgating follows in behind. Whaling, you're going after Barney Big Dog, right? So, like the CEO, CFO, CIO. So any C level person would be a whale, right? And then the principle of least privilege means that you don't give people access if they don't need it. All right, so you're going with tailgating, and that is correct. Great job, man. Great job. All right. Oh, this is a good one here. Let's go with how about all right, no, we can't. I don't want to go. Let's see here. Trenton, you're my guy. Go ahead, bud.
Symmetric encryption utilizes blank, while asymmetric encryption utilizes blank. Public keys, private keys, session keys, shared keys, private keys, public keys, one time. Well, nobody wants to see your privates, and that's symmetric. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of A and B. And
okay, you're gonna get rid of A and B?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with D.
Go with D. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So you're absolutely incorrect on this one. Asymmetric. You have a private and a public key, right? It's a keyed pair. And asymmetric only works in PKI, right? It only works in PKI. So you and I both would have to adhere to that public key infrastructure, which, PKI, all it is just software. That's all it is. And so you and I both would have to enroll and download the software for the PKI. And then we can start doing asymmetric cryptography, because I would be issued a key pair, you would be issued a key pair, and we can share our public key, but we can't. You're absolutely right. Nobody wants to see your private parts, buddy. So we don't share. We don't share. Or maybe I should say no sherry. No share private. Right.
Would an example of asymmetric encryption be like WebEx? Possibly.
How so?
Or what's a good example of asymmetric encryption?
So let's say here that you're using RSA, right? You would use RSA. That's the most common one. So RSA. Let's say that we here at Cyber Protects, why don't we have a PKI? We install a PKI server, right? That PKI server is using RSA, which is asymmetric, right? And then for each person that we have, if we want to send and receive encrypted email, or digitally sign something, an email, let's say, digitally sign that email. So it doesn't have to, you don't have to digitally sign and encrypt. You can do either or you can do an and, right? You can encrypt and digitally sign, or you can just digitally sign, or you can just encrypt, right? You don't need to do them both at all times. And so what would happen is each person here would get a private and a public key, private and a public key for each one of them. Private. I'm not going to write all these out. Just give me a second. Just do a few of them. And that would, all those private and public keys would be managed by that PKI system. So then if you want to send, let's say this is Ben here, and this one down here is Trenton. You have a private and a public key down here. what I would do is I would go to the PKI server and I would say, yo, I want to send a encrypted email to Trenton. PKI server says, here is Trenton's public key, and it gives me your public key. What I do is whatever my message is on my side that I want to encrypt, I'll use my private key and your public key, because the system knows that it can deliver the message to you because of your public key. And what it'll do is it'll encrypt it with your public key. That way, when I send it to you, then you can say, oh yeah, that's from Ben. I'm going to use my public key to unencrypt it. And then if you need to encrypt something back to me, you can use your private key to encrypt it back. So this thing in between here, this system manages everything. It's kind of a secret sauce that is in between us here, right? And basically, it negotiates the encryption, it negotiates the key generation. This has the certificate authority, the registration authority. You know, it has all of that in there. So asymmetric uses private keys, and symmetric, you actually share the keys. So another way to look at shared key is that it could use one public key for that. So the best answer here would be bravo. Bravo. All right.
So are they trying to be tricky here? Because you could have shared keys and public keys as well, right? And then that would be a right answer because it uses both. And
which one would that be?
the asymmetric, unless I just listened to you and completely missed it, doesn't it use both public and private?
Asymmetric does use both public and private.
So they're just trying to throw you off here with a little trickery because I got it.
Yeah, so usually I don't use this word when I'm describing symmetric because I don't like to confuse people. So I use shared keys whenever I'm talking about symmetric, because typically if you and I want to encrypt data back and forth, if we want to encrypt data back and forth, you will have the key over here, right? And I will have that same key over here. So it's the same key. Both of us have the key. So I can encrypt it on my side. I can decrypt it on my side. You can encrypt it on your side and encrypt it on your side. But at some point in the game, both of us have to have that key negotiation. And that is what one of the flaws of symmetric encryption is how do you get that to these people unencrypted? Like over a public internet, you know, how do like right now, how would I get you the key? I'd have to email it to you or put it up on Dropbox or, you know, something like that. So these are the same keys between you and I, right? But if you wanted to send something to Dave, you wouldn't use that same key that you have right here. You would have another key for between you and Dave, right? Here, this key would be just between you and Dave. And then Dave would have one between him and you. And then if he wanted to send one to me, he would have another one for Ben. And then I would have one for Dave as well. So this is a really interesting way to look at it. But typically, between two people, there'll be one key. But the more people you have, the more keys that you're going to have, because you're not going to use the same key for every person. Not going to do that. All right, let's do a few more here. Shane, since you wanted to get involved in the conversation, I'm going to go ahead and get you going next here. Go ahead, man.
One of the advantages of trusted platform modules, TPM, is the bottom one. It can be tied to a user's logon account for additional authentication. We'll probably scratch that because it's a chip and it's based in a particular asset. It cannot be used as the basics for securing other encryption methods. I'm not sure what that's even saying, so we'll leave it for now. It's tied to the system's MAC address for secure tracking. I don't know if a system really has a single MAC address anymore, so we'll cross that one out. A lot of them have multiples. I would go with, I believe it cannot be modified by a silent background process. And part of that is it gets shipped with it's a physical piece that comes from somewhere else and it's locked. You can't update it later. So I would take a guess at A, since I don't know what.
So that's one of the best ways to look at it is once this TPM is used, like let's say earlier John mentioned BitLocker. Let's say you use TPM to actually encrypt a hard drive or whatever. You're going to actually lock that device. So now these two are tied to each other for life. The TPM and whatever password you use to encrypt that, it's locked. And A is exactly the reason why you would do it. So nothing can modify it unless it knows the secret to get onto it. So C, on the other hand, if this did not say cannot here, right? If this said it can be used for the basis for securing other encryption methods, absolutely. Absolutely. If we have the TPM as a foundation, then you can use it as the basis for other security encryption methods. Absolutely. But since it says it cannot, then that would be one that we would eliminate as well. A MAC address, what can we do with a MAC address? Anybody?
You can spoof it.
Yeah, you spoof it. So we know that a MAC address is not valid. So B, we would get rid of. So I like the way you deduced that, man. Great job. All right, let's go back with, how about Kelsey for this one right here?
Which of the following multi-factor authenticate? Oh, wow, I cannot speak.
I got you. Authentication.
Methods uses biometrics. Biometrics would be, so I'm actually going to do, I'm going to take off something that's not going to be it. I'm just going to say it's something you are because it's who you are. It's your eyes or it's your fingerprint or your things like that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So multi-factor. So, we think about something something you have, or something you are. Another way to think of it is something you can forget, something you can lose, or something you can get cut off, right? Any two of these factors of authentication, any two of them, is considered what's called strong authentication. And so that's why a lot of modern day enterprises are going to two-factor authentication, is because it's considered strong authentication, right? Somewhere you are is actually starting to come to life more and more now, right? Because we have geolocation.
Because anytime I log into my Google account, I get a notification, you've logged into a new location. Is this you?
Yeah, but this one is in the tenets of authentication. The big three are something you know, something you have, something you are. So you absolutely hit the nail on the head with this one. Great job. That is fantastic. All right, so I see a question there. So, Josh, I think I even before I saw your question, man, I think I even threw a hedge in there, right? I said I don't like using that word, public, when I'm dealing with symmetric key encryption. I prefer not to personally, but CompTIA absolutely does use that word. They think that the public key is a shared key. That's the way they look at it. And as a certified instructor, that's the way that they want me to teach it. Whether or not I agree with that, I totally, as an expert in encryption, I would totally disagree with that. So I'm just letting you know for the exam, public and symmetric is also synonymous with a shared key. So keep that in mind. All right, we'll do a couple more here. Let me see if I can throw a zinger at Dave. Dave, I'm coming at you here, bro. Let me throw a zinger at you. Let's see here. How about this one right here?
Jane, administrator, is primarily concerned with blocking external attackers from gaining information on remote employees by scanning their laptops. Which of the following security applications is best suited for the task? All right, so well, it's not going to be anti-spam or antivirus software. And so an IDS only detects an attack, so it's going to be a personal firewall.
You can go with personal firewall?
Yes.
You are correct, sir. You are correct, sir. Oh, somebody's clapping for you. Look at that. Been playing around with the GUI here, I guess, huh, Shane? So I look at this also, and I think to myself, okay, that context clue of blocking, I mean, that's what firewalls do, is they block stuff, right? So B is the best answer here. Great job. All right, let's go back to John. John, this one's for you. John, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. My mic was muted, but I was unmuted on the software. Anyway.
That's okay, man. That's okay.
So, all right, Sarah, for the third time now, Sarah, an attacker, is recording a person typing in their ID number into a keypad to gain access to the building. Sarah then calls the help desk to inform them that their PIN no longer works and would like to change it. Which of the following attacks occurred last? Oop.
Sorry.
You good? Okay, so let's see. Okay, so the attacks that occurred last. Was recording a person typing their ID. So I would say shoulders. Oh, okay. Tailgating. I don't think it's tailgating because they would have to actually follow the person into a place to gain access. I don't know about impersonation because I think you could technically impersonate somebody, but I don't think that's how they did it. I would say shoulder surfing. Phishing, I know would be probably like would send an email and try to get it that way, but since they were recording somebody to get their their ID. I think that's how they would do it.
Shoulder surfing?
Yes,
That's where you're going with?
I think so.
Anybody got a different answer?
I would think the last thing would be the impersonation.
The last thing here, let's just look at it. Look at it here. A person typing in, so the recording, typing in their ID into a keypad. So that would be shoulder surfing. And then, since she's an attacker, right, she calls the help desk and informs that the pin is no longer works and would like to change it. That is impersonation.
Oh, okay.
That is impersonation.
Gotcha.
You know what? I tell you what. Why don't you try another one, man? Go ahead.
Sure. Which of the following would be the best choice for attacking a complex password hash? Brute force intrusion, rainbow tables, dictionary files, man in the middle. I don't think it would be brute force intrusion because I know that one would take forever if it would even work. Rainbow tables I think is possible for a complex password hash. Okay. I know man in the middle would be a hard one to do. I don't think it would be that one. I think rainbow tables.
Rainbow tables? All right. You are correct, sir. So rainbow tables actually is a huge file that it contains a bunch of password hashes and is used for cracking passwords. So you are correct. That is right. Great job, man.
So
Would you?
Right. Good.
Sorry, did I? I was going to ask. Would you even really consider man in the middle as like a way to do something like this?
So the man in the middle attack, and I think that they with the 601 now, they call it also a meet me in the middle attack, and that one actually is very difficult to do. Being able to essentially be a proxy between two ends, and if you're the attacker in the middle, trying to get between these guys, and then basically you're sending information, you're receiving it, and then you're passing it on. You could do that, but that wouldn't be the best choice to do it. I think that these two would be the top two choices. But since it's a hash, the rainbow table is a set of password hashes. When I was at SAIC, we had at our cyber lab there, we had an 11 terabyte rainbow table. We created an 11 terabyte rainbow table for cracking passwords. All right, I got one more here, and then we're going to take a quick break. Take a quick break after this. Let's go with, I can use the force and feel everybody saying, don't call me, Ben, don't call on me, don't call on me. Let's go with, how about Kelsey? We'll go back with you. Kelsey, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Oh, you're waiting for me to. Sorry.
A company is performing internal security audits after a recent exploitation on one of their primary applications. Sarah, the security auditor, is given a workstation with limited documentation regarding the application installed for the audit. Which of the following types of testing methods is this? Oh, I know this. Gray box, black box, white box, or sandbox. So I'm actually going to, first of all, I'm going to get rid of black box.
Okay, what is that?
I I believe black box would be like a malicious type of hacking, correct?
No, but we'll go ahead and get rid of it.
Okay. And then I would say white box.
Okay. Go with white box.
Mm-hmm.
So let's check it out here. Oh, okay. Let's check it out here. So a sandbox, just like the name implies, right, is kind of like a dev environment. So a sandbox is a dev environment that allows us to test stuff, right? So usually, if you have an Android, or you do development in Java or compiled languages like C#, it actually will use this thing that's called the Dalvik VM. And it's basically, this works as a container. So it contains whatever you're doing inside of the sandbox. So if it's something nasty, it can't get out of the sandbox, right? So that's a dev environment where you can test stuff. A white box here, a white box test is what we refer to as an open kimono. And I hate to give you the visual here, but basically you're showing your world to me, right? So if I'm going in and I'm engaging in a test of some sort with you, you're going to open your kimono and you're going to show your world to me. That means that you're going to give me everything. All right, you're gonna give me all your documentation. You're gonna tell me all your IP addresses. You're gonna give me everything you have. That's gonna be a white box test. A black box test. I always think about the black box in, if you think about the news, if an aircraft crashes and nobody knows what happens, what do they look for?
They look for that tested box that's in the cockpit.
Yeah, that's in the cockpit, right? And then the black box is we don't know anything. Mm-hmm. We don't know anything. And pretty much we're going into this test, we're going in blind to the test. We have no idea what we're about to get into. We could open up Pandora's box and, all hell breaks loose or whatever, right? We're going into a blind. And that's the black box. So, metaphorically, the aircraft is probably the best example I can give to you. I hate to get grim melancholy with saying that they're going to crash, but
I just saw your opinions. That makes a lot of sense to me.
And so the gray box here then typically means that you got a little, but not enough. And so what that means is typically you're very limited in the information you've been providing. So, if I'm paying you 10 grand to come in and do an assessment of, my network, and I don't give you anything, what kind of test would that be?
A sandbox, because they have limited document. Oh, I'm sorry.
If I don't give you anything.
Oh, if you don't give me anything, black box.
Black box, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I don't give you anything, it's going to be a black box. If I give you everything I got,
white box.
And I'm going to do my open kimono with you here. It's going to be a white box. And then it's kind of the hey, you know what? I'm not going to give you everything. I want to see what you can find. It's very limited here. Limited documentation. Very limited documentation. So the answer for this one
gray box
would be a gray box test. That makes sense?
Yes, makes a lot of sense.
All right, so hopefully people are taking copious notes because we when we do these test questions, we cover a whole bunch of goodness And if you are like me, I like to make sure that I have those index cards. All right, so let's take a quick commercial break here. Come on back in about 7 minutes, and we'll keep the dream alive. Okay, we'll keep the dream alive. All right. And we're back. Welcome back. Coming to you live from Studio 54 in Madison, Alabama. All right. So I'm going to put a series of unfortunate, or no, that's something else. I'm going to put a series of questions in the chat window, and I want you to tell me the network command that you would use to get a desired result. Okay. What if you wanted to display network configuration for a system? What would you type? What would you type? So the wrong answer here is nothing. So if you didn't answer, I'm watching you, because that means to me that you haven't played with that before, because this, and I'm just going to give you a straight dope, I'm not going to call you out. If you didn't answer that, then that means that you've not played with the command line. So ipconfig is about as simple as it possibly could get if you're looking for network configuration information for a system. Okay, that's about as simple as it possibly could get. So if you're on a Linux box, you would type ifconfig. I'm not on a Linux box, so that's why it doesn't work, right? All right, good. Most of you got that. If you didn't, we got some wind sprints and crab crawls out in the parking lot on Tuesday that we're going to get you to do. Maybe you can meet me there at 4 a.m. and I'll get my bullhorn out. Make sure that I'll be riding in my golf cart. Oh, that's funny because you can't get in. Yeah, that's funny. I think we've rectified that problem with Andrew. All right, what about this one right here? What command does that? Trenton, yes. Dave, yes. Kincaid, yes. John, no. Kelsey, no. Lacey, no. That's right. I'm watching. So anybody who's not answering these, and I'm not going to throw you under the bus if you're not answering, I'm just going to tell you straight up and down. I would hate for you to get a couple of these command line questions on the exam and not be able to answer them, because quite frankly, these are cherry pickers right here. So go in, start playing around with stuff. NetStat shows us what is open on our system. You can see that I got Kubernetes running, which is a container machine. I also have some connections out to some secure websites from my machine. My machine's running on the 192.168.0.47, and then the colon after that tells me what port it's connecting to on. Many of these are more than likely websites that I'm connecting to. but we'll just give it a second to make that magic happen there. Okay, we'll let it kind of play itself out. I know Andrew, the other night, I was lurking in the background, and I heard most of what was going on. So over here you have NetStat that's telling me all the open connections, right? And then he meant well the other night in his references to some of the things. But what about this one right here? It sends ICMP packets to another IP to confirm network connectivity. Now, I will tell you, if you don't know this one, we got big problems, Pookie. One ping only. See Sean Connery? Right? Give him one ping only. James Bond there in a different movie. That's right. R.I.P. James Bond. But what a great movie that. Hold on. Oh, Crazy Abby. What a great movie The Hunt for Red October is. Give him one ping, right? So if I want to test connectivity from my network, the simplest of troubleshooting. First things first, I'm going to go through, I'm going to see what my IP address is, right? And that's going to be IP config. The second thing is hey, can I ping? For me, first, like if I'm coming in and troubleshooting network, I'm going to say, I'm going to ask, can I ping Google? Because if I can't ping Google, I got bigger problems, right? I got bigger problems if I can't ping Google. So, and I can immediately identify what the hops are along the way, as far as what I need to take a look at. So hopefully that makes sense. I would encourage you, if you already have not, to also play a little bit with Nmap in ZenMap. So the network mapper tool here, if you know what your IP address is, in my case, my IP address is going to be the first entry up here. All right, so 192.168.0.47. If I know that, then what I can do here is I can scan a target network, 192. Oh, something else was already in there because I've used this plenty of times before. I'm going to scan a target network of 0.0/24. Okay, because the CIDR notation there tells me it's 255.255.255.0 for the subnet address. All right, that's the subnet, so it's /24. So Nmap is behind the scenes at the command line here for ZenMap. And so you can download this program, play around with it. I'm just going to scan the heck out of it. It's an intense scan. People here at my home network probably won't be too happy with me, but whatever. I pay the bills. Yeah, no, I don't get out very much, guys. So, this is important because it's actually scanning the network right now. I'm going to let this kind of run in the background for a little bit, and I'll come back to it here in a few minutes. Okay. So there's a couple other ones that you need to know, and there's keywords that are associated with that. And I know Andrew went through a few of these the other night, but I just want to make sure that you get them, because if you have 5 of these on your exam and you miss all 5 of them, I think that would be a crying shame, an absolute crying shame. So what command tells us the number of hops between you and a destination? That's right. That's right. Good. Good. So you can type in trace route. I know there's a pretty popular meme out there on YouTube. Some kid was creating. I don't think it's a meme. I think he, in real life, he really thought that it was called Tracer T. But he put together a YouTube video where he said, so when you go in and use Tracer T, you can figure out how many hops it goes from one place to another. And you know what? Whatever. I mean, at least the kid's playing with stuff. But if I wanted to go out and just check the number of hops between me and Dr. Google, I would just type in trace route or trace RT and type in the place that I want to go. And, you know, I remember when I was growing up that, you know, especially around the Halloween time, I would love to see if I can get different candies when I trick or treat. And here it is, right here. Oh, 3. So apparently, you know, in our lifetime, somebody who must have a lot of free time on their hands figured out that it's 367 licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. Well, trace route is very similar to that, except you don't put saliva on it and it's not sweet, right? So how many hops, how many licks does it take? So how many hops does it take to get to where you need to be from the source to that destination? And it's important for you to recognize that depends on, you know, how far you are away from, you know, the trunk, but trace route is a good tool. And here you are. It shows you that I'm 16 hops away, or 16 licks between me and the center of the Tootsie Roll Pop here. So that's trace route. And if I was to put some money on it, I would probably say that trace route will be on your exam. All right, so in the background here, this thing looks like it's still going, but it's built a topology diagram here at my house that shows you all the different hosts that are on my network. And so if I click on one, I should be able to zoom in and see each one of these. You can see I have my local host, which is this machine that I'm on. And then from that, I was able to scan. Here's my my gateway firewall here, the 168.1 or 168.0.1. You know, and there's some other nodes that are on here as well. I can click on each node and then figure out some more information about it. And this particular one didn't really do me any justice here, right? You can see that I have a Linux box that's running and it's the gateway, the .0 node that's out there that is working as the firewall. So that is how Nmap works. Okay, see you. We'll see you tomorrow. So somebody's dropping off. So I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with that. What I'd like you to do here is take a look at who is. If you take a look at who is, and we play around a little bit with it, you may end up using it in other capacities besides what we currently are looking at here. So who is a great way for you to learn the information about data on websites. So not only who is, but something like Anywho. That's right, Anywho. So if I go into this lab right here, I can go out and use a tool called Anywho and find out information about different addresses or different information about different people. So I can actually search these different things to find out more information and do footprinting. So let's check out who is first. And then we'll go to, I think it's .net. Oh, that says not secure. So who is here? Let's say we go to cyberprotects here.com, and I'm just going to do a who is lookup here on cyberprotects. This says not secure, so I wonder if I'm blocking it. So what you may want to do is you may want to go and see if you can find out. Yeah, here it is, whois.com. So you can go out here and do a whois lookup. You can find out cyberprotects.com. I can do a search on it, and it'll go out and tell me all the information that I ever wanted to know about this particular website if the person decided to register it and not register it private. So this particular, whoever registered this thing, it shows you that the cyberprotects.com is not available. It's currently registered. It was registered on 1/24/2012, and whoever the person was actually paid a little bit extra money to make sure that their name was not on the internet in that capacity, at least. So let's just say here that I wanted to do another check on, let's just think here, I don't know. Let's see, how about People Tech? I don't even know if we have any people working for People Tech. All right, so People Tech was registered in 2003, so it's been around for 17 years. And Network Solutions was the company that actually registered it. Somebody's gotten smart here, right? They went through a perfect privacy, so you pay a little bit extra, like $15 extra, to go and try to obfuscate it, make sure that nobody's name is out there. And so this is who is. This is what who is does. It'll tell you the domain of a particular person or a particular company, and it'll bring back data per that domain. So that's what whois does. If you go out and take a look at something like Anywho, you can actually do a little bit of footprinting on someone. And this is a pretty good site here. You can find out information. It's been a while since I've been out here to check this out, but I'll go in and do that. So I'll do a quick find here. And boom, look at that. I mean, within 2 seconds, you guys could be at my house and see where I live. Gosh, am I really 45 years old? I know. I mean, I look pretty good for a 45-year-old, but whatever. So you can go out there and do a profile on yourself. This gives a phone number here. That phone number is whack, so I'm happy to see that. But if you want to, you could go out and check that out. It's publicly available, right? So if we're doing footprinting, we can also go out to another website here called Intellius. This one's kind of not fair. Let's say that we wanted to go and search for our friend Kelsey Cochran right here. And you know what? I'm not going to give a city. I'm just going to say Florida, because that's probably going to give us more robust websites. Sure. Yeah, I'll go ahead and agree to that. So let's just go ahead and look. It says to help narrow down the results, we're looking at all the state of Florida. Right now, it's looking at federal data sources, state data sources, county data sources to find out, has Kelsey ever lived in, you know what? Sure. Yeah, why not? She probably has. I mean, I don't know that, so I'm going to click I don't know. You know what? I think she's probably younger than that, but, I'll say yes. You can see down here at the bottom, it's going through social media, with federal data sources, state data sources, county data sources, traffic offenses, felonies. These are all public records right here. I was doing this about 2 months ago in another Security Plus class during the day. And somebody asked me to look like I usually get a guinea pig instead of just picking somebody. And the person that I looked up actually did have a criminal record. And they didn't think it was going to show up. And sure enough, it started to show up on here. And I pretended like it. I mean, it's hard to pretend like you can't see it, but whatever. They volunteered. So here we are 3 minutes later, and we have information on Kelsey right here, right? So is any of this relevant up here, Kelsey? The top one?
Nope, that's not me.
So usually with this website, they get a little teaser, and then you got to actually pay a little bit of money for it afterwards. And that's just an assumption from my perspective there that one was you.
Oh, the 24 one? Yeah, that one was me.
So we'll let that one kind of percolate in the background there. And we'll keep the dream alive by going through some other stuff here. So the different networking commands are super important. I mean, if you're going to be getting into the security arena, I would recommend that you just go around and play with, these commands to make sure that you understand what they do. I mean, because a lot of them are just super simple, super straightforward. And if you don't know them, then you definitely need to know them. Okay, definitely need to know them. Anybody, not just one person or another. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about identity and access management and how important this is to everybody. Okay, to me, this is perhaps one of the most important things, is how we manage identities. And at the crutch or the root of everything is what's called Active Directory. Okay, so Active Directory is actually a Microsoft product, and it actually will allow you to create what's called a domain. And in your domain, you can add users, you can add computers, and you can add just objects. And it's kind of a neat thing if you've never played with it, because Active Directory, that's the name of the software that Microsoft creates, is used in over 90% of corporations worldwide. And in my opinion, is probably the number one thing that you should know about how a domain is governed is through Active Directory. It will add computers and network devices to the domain. It'll add users to the domain, and it is probably one of the single most important components to understanding how all of this works. When somebody comes on board, there's quite a bit of things that we need to do, including but not limited to, with an onboarding process. We need to go ahead and create a user ID for that person, and that user ID in a Windows environment, user ID is called an NT login. So with Windows NT, when that came out, it's a server. They created what NT stands for is new technology. And Microsoft created this new technology based off of the single sign-on and using a Kerberos backend. And this new technology actually creates a domain. This domain allows you to add computers, network devices, any objects, any computers, but also it allows you to push these things down to computers called security policies. And these security policies are pushed down to computers in what's called a GPO, or a group policy object. So this is quite important because really it is literally everything in a network. Everything that happens in a network. Okay. And so as we go through and talk in the remainder of the classes, you're going to be hearing me talk about this thing that is Active Directory. And primarily, it focuses on what's called IAAA. IAAA, okay? So that is the identity or identification, the authentication, the authorization, and the accountability or auditing, like holding people accountable for what they do on the network. And this is important because when we go through, we create an identity, when we update an identity, when we delete an identity, these are all things that happen on a network. So let's do a quick exercise here and talk about the amazing Cyberman. Okay, this amazing Cyberman is a high-paid strategic hire for you, and you want him to try to be productive on day one. Day one. So what do you need to do to make this happen? What do you need to do? So, when I first started getting into the business, that day one would be, if you think about a timeline. So, there's, let's say, 21 days out. So T minus 20, right? And then, as you kind of look into the future, 21 days in the future. So here would be day 0 when the person starts. What steps do we got to put in place here to make sure that they hit the ground running and be productive right here? So we're going to give you about 7-8 minutes to put your thoughts down. Don't start putting them into the chat window just yet, but think about some of the things on the jobs that you've been at, and or maybe you've hired new people. What are some of those things that you're going to want to do to make sure that that person is productive on day one and feels like a productive member of the team? So we'll give you a few minutes to get this party going, and be thinking T minus 20, 21 to, hey, hitting the ground running on day one. What does that look like? All right, we're going to give you about 7 minutes. Go. All right, so if you want to go ahead and start putting your thoughts down, feel free to put your thoughts down. Sure. Yeah, I'll give you annotation, Shane. No problem. Go ahead, man. You gonna draw something for me, man?
I don't know. I just thought that's what you meant. I see you wanted in the chat.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Oh, look at this. Yeah, things are coming back here. People are putting stuff into the chat. Yeah, code to get into the building. Andrew didn't get that, did he? Well, he's never going to live that down. All right, good, good. You get badge into the, okay, good. I was hoping you were typing some more stuff. Security clearance, good. Access to team file share, email access, computer, organized place for policies and procedures. Yeah. Absolutely. Good. Yeah, and you know, in addition to that, we have some more. Oh, this just in here. It seems like it's coming in from some of these states that are still outstanding. Yes, these just in. Codes and keys to rooms with computers is one thing here. So somebody wrote that in there. So if you need codes or something, right? So, oh gosh, boy, yeah, that doesn't work for me, does it? Oh gosh, I just messed you up, buddy. Sorry. My dog messed you up. See there, look. Look at me, man. I just messed you up. I apologize. All right, so let me just read these off here. So John Carter, he put in create user account, get his hardware ready, the laptop, the phone, get access to the facilities, badge to scan into the building. Yeah, boilerplate software, absolutely. Paperwork, security key codes, yeah. The computer, good. Probably a phone, I would think, maybe a chair, right? Maybe a monitor, a keyboard, a mouse. I mean, those are all incidentals, but shoot, you need that stuff. Yeah, network documentation, machine with system admin. Oh, wow. You're just going to give them system administrator access, huh? That's pretty nice. I love it. Can I come work for you? All right, codes and keys to rooms with the computers. Fantastic. I love all this access that the amazing Cyberman's going to get here. So a couple of other things here to consider, maybe or maybe not, right? A couple of other things here. Let's consider this, that you know, out here, first and foremost, we're going to probably have to make this dude an offer, and he's going to have to accept it, right? Out here. And then from that, you know, first things first, homeboy's going to probably have to do a piss test, right? Something like that. And then probably after he passes that, or maybe he doesn't, and then it's over, the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement, would probably come to life right there. And then, the HR paperwork. So a few of you guys said that before, but, like your bank account information, probably some online training that you have to do. And, once you reach a certain point, what ends up happening with a lot of these larger companies out there is it will actually kick off a workflow, an electronic workflow that will start to provision a lot of the things that Shane was putting into there. It'll put in maybe a badge request. It'll probably kick off some sort of background investigation if you need one. We probably should have after it gets to a certain point here, on day one, we probably should set them up with a meeting with the team to introduce the person, maybe even take them out to lunch to make them feel welcome. But in addition to that, maybe back here or even earlier than that, we probably should have them go meet the customer, because if the customer doesn't get the warm and fuzzy, then we got bigger problems, right? The customer doesn't like the person. And so, back in the olden days, 20 years ago, a lot of these things used to be done by the sneaker net, right? But now these are automated workflows. And this is a huge, huge part of cybersecurity. So those jobs that we were showing the first day, or we showed there, this is a huge part of cybersecurity. Is handling the automation of new hires, handling the provisioning of new accounts and or new access. And then, if homeboy's overconfident here, after 30 days or whatever, he pisses off the wrong person. Well, what if we need to terminate him, right? How do we do that? And so all these things to consider, whether it's the create the identity, the update the identity, or the terminate. And I think we talked about this before. The CRUD operand is create, update, and delete. And so we need to be able to do that with any identity that is provisioned. We can provision it in a way to create it. We can provision it in a way to update it. And we can provision it in a way to delete it. And so from that, this automation is done through workflows. Typically, there's two things that end up happening. These systems communicate over a text-based language called XML. And there's two different types of XML that's used to provision accounts. Okay? And I want you to look these up and shoot me an email what these mean. SAML and SPIML. These are two things that are important out there. And one is the service assertion markup language. The other one's the service provisioning markup language. But the amazing Cyberman is a strategic hire. He's going to hit the ground running on day one and be productive, because we've provisioned his accounts through automation using the XML-based SAML language and the SPIML language. Okay? All right, so we do have a little bit of homework for you over the weekend. I'll be shooting that out a little bit later. The videos should already be up there. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't checked yet, but one of the interns was supposed to do that. And if they're not, then I'll make sure that I pop those videos up there so you guys can watch some of them over the weekend. Any questions for me before I let you go? Can you believe that it's already 8:30? I mean, gosh, time flies when you're having fun, right?
So from this this last slide here is what's going to be on the test?
It's a great question. Great question. So in this, provisioning will absolutely be on your test. And these two ways that things are provisioned will also be on your test. So the SAML and the SPIML will be on the test.
So I kind of understand CRUD will give us the provisioning.
The CRUD, but more importantly, down here, these two.
Okay.
SAML and SPIML. So SAML is basically you're able to automatically log onto a system, and then SPIML is you're actually telling the system that you want to create, update, or delete something. Good question.
Do you mind going back to that last slide for just a second with all your markups?
Not this one, the other one?
Yeah, just the previous, yeah.
This one right here?
Yes, sir. I'll just get a screenshot real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know if the slide you send out won't have your markups.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
And we'll have these printed out for Tuesday along with the next domain. I think that we have either 3 or 4 classes left. Is that right? Anybody know?
Yeah, I think it's 3.
3 of them? Okay. Yeah. And my goal is to work with you guys. So I don't want you to think that, just because the end of the class is the end of the class that I'm just going to leave you high and dry. We're going to work with you to get you certified. So anybody who's struggling, shoot me an email if you're interested in learning this stuff a little bit more. You can come on in. I mean, especially next week, we're freed up a little bit. You can come on in. I can sit down with you. We can play with some virtual machines, and I can kind of show you a few things. Feel free to hit me up and let me know that you're interested in that. If you are, I'm more than happy to meet with you and kind of walk you through some things that you may be struggling with. Okay. I won't charge you for it. I mean, just come on in and make sure you coordinate with me beforehand. Okay. Any questions?
I had a question. I think it's more like a technical. It doesn't really have to do with anything that we've done tonight anyway. Network address translation. You had mentioned that came around like for IPv4 because it was starting to end. I guess it was created because people were worried about that or about losing all the IP. But anyway, before that came around, was everything just a public facing IP before like network address translation?
That's a great question, man. So, great question. So really, when Active Directory was created, so the Microsoft Active Directory, when people started having domains, there was a need to have a different IP address schema internally for corporations. And what was starting to happen, like in the mid 90s, is a lot of these big companies that were out there, they started buying up all the IP version 4 IP addresses. And, that there needed to be a way that you weren't on the internet all the time. So from that, you put a firewall out there with a border public facing IP address. And then internally, you can use whatever scheme that you want to use as far as IP addresses are concerned. So that is one of the main reasons why NAT exists, is because you can use whatever schema you want internally.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. So I mean that anybody that's struggling with any of this stuff, if you coordinate with me, I'm more happy to start meeting with you. My goal is that everyone is certified by the end of the year, if not by the end of November, hopefully before Thanksgiving. And if you're struggling with some things, then come on and meet with me. Don't feel like you're bothering me. I'm more than happy to sit down with you and show you some of the cool things that we do, but more importantly, what's going to be on the exam, and teach you how to use some of these tools. So hopefully you'll take me up on that offer. Otherwise, I'll see you next Tuesday and Thursday. And we're going to go through the remainder of the curriculum, probably play around with some more practical exercises, and we'll go from there. Okay, have a great weekend.
Thank you, sir.